Thank you for nothing, you useless reptile.
Me?
Yeah.
What? All right, today on the show, we're giving some love to the DreamWorks animated series, How to Train Your Dragon, trilogy of films. There's a new one, a live action remake coming out this year, which is sort of an inspiration to
Boo.
do. Yeah, I'm not into the live action remake thing.
I am.
But
Boo.
we're celebrating the animated trilogy.
15 years since the first movie.
Yeah, it's a little anniversary too.
I'm a live action remake apologist.
You're breaking my heart.
I'm not even sorry.
And in this case, especially because it's Dean DeBlood doing it, and he said they're going to do it anyway, so I may as well step in and lead the way that I want to do it. And so
I guess that kind of makes sense.
I think I'm leaving it up to him, but I think it's in pretty good hands.
Yeah, I mean,
It looks exactly the same.
It's
Yeah,
no,
I'm
there's
watching
literally like clips out there of people who have cut the exact shot for shot.
But what if they use that money to make a new thing instead?
Well, yes, but it just unfortunately seems to be the way that things are going these days, where they don't want to do that. So,
But anyway, the animated films. We'll get into it. How to Train Your Dragon from 2010, directed by both Chris Saunders and Dean DeBlois.
yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I think it's such a gorgeous little story, and I think a lot of people going into it, you wouldn't realize how heartwarming and special it's going to actually be when it turns out, because you're like, that's just a little kid movie. But then the whole story is just about like found family and establishing relationships with your friends, family, like your father. And I just think that the whole thing comes together in such a heartwarming and romantic way that you just can't help but feel like sucked into the deep emotional relationships, and that's carried across all of them. But they're really built in the first one because you really feel like at the start the Hiccup is such an outsider to the town, and he really wants to prove himself to his dad, but he can't do what everyone else is doing, so he uses his little genius brain, makes a trap, brings down the scariest, most ruthless dragon to ever come across Burke, and magic happens from there, basically.
Talk about false advertising on Toothless being the most
I
ruthless scary
know,
dragon
he's
ever.
just a little kitty cat.
He's just a little baby.
He's just a little baby. But you
that's
kind
what
of
the
do
movie's
see it, yeah.
about. Is that you think that they're bad, but they're not bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, define the expectations. Same for the Vikings.
Mhm.
No, the first one really is amazing.
Yeah, it has such a great heart to it that's just really encapsulated by the Toothless Hiccup relationship. It just feels so genuine. The him reaching his hand out and Toothless touching it, like when that moment happens, and you're just like, wow, this is witnessing friendship happen.
It's just such a beautiful relationship, and they both find what they need in each other. Like no one else understands them. They're soulmates, really. And Hiccup helps Toothless, and they form this like symbiotic relationship where they really can't live without each other, because Toothless needs Hiccup to fly, and Hiccup needs Toothless to feel confident in himself, especially in the first one.
The way that their stories parallel throughout all three movies is really, really well done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Hiccup's character in it, you touch on it, him being smart and that being what sets him apart. It's really great the way you see him throughout the movie, where he's constantly looking at things from a new perspective that nobody else is. And they have all these ideas about the dragons and how scary they are and how to defeat them. And he's showing everybody that maybe they're wrong. And just because you've been told something your whole life doesn't mean that you should necessarily believe it. Like, question things and think for yourself a little bit. And I like that a lot in the movie.
Yeah, and that is just a really lovely message to have in a kid's movie, and it really transcends across all audiences. But another thing that I really love is, though Hiccup is so different and like Stoic really doesn't understand him at all, the frustration between them is that they really just don't understand each other.
But that's what's like really well done about the movie, is that they set up everything so well. Like all of the characters it's a new world that you've never been to before. It's fantasy. It's like all these different things, but they set up everything and all the relationships so well that you instantly understand all the characters. And then they go on to really pay off all those relationships and all of those emotions that are set up from the very start.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The opening scene is kind of like a masterclass in setup. I know it has voiceover, which some people scoff at, but I think it's really effectively done in the movie.
But they don't overdo it to
No.
the point where it's like annoying. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you get the information you need. Everything feels natural. They feel like real people with real relationships. And the other thing that's great is that there isn't really a villain in the movie. Like, I guess you
Mhm.
could be like, the dragon, the alpha dragon, is kind of the villain because it's scaring all the dragons and forcing them into this situation where they're attacking the people or the Vikings, and then the Vikings think that they're evil, blah, blah, blah. But really the villain is like the misunderstanding,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know what I mean, between the different characters.
Yeah, and the dragons misunderstanding the Vikings and the Vikings misunderstanding them and them coming to a world to live in harmony together.
Sometimes movies like that are really satisfying because it's not about like defeating something. It's about where Stoic saves Toothless. Like that's maybe a more satisfying part than when they defeat the dragon. You know what I mean? And then the end, seeing all the dragons and the Vikings living together on the island. That's the satisfying part because they're overcoming their differences.
Yeah. And I think another thing that I love about them is they're not afraid to go deep and dark with emotions, with relationships, and also with, the stakes, because Hiccup loses his foot at the end. What other franchise would do that? Like that just sets up the very start that happens in the first movie. Like where are the stakes going to go from here? And, it's just such a parallel, obviously, for Hiccup and Toothless to have lost that part of themselves. And again, it just goes into them really needing each other to be able to function for that period of their lives. Just shows that the depth and stuff is really there, and it really does pay off from the stakes that you've discovered that this is like the most dangerous situation that these Vikings have been in.
Well, and they're willing to live up to the expectations that they're setting because it's a movie about killing and about violence. You know what I mean? And then I think other movies will do things like that, but then they won't actually follow through on the consequences that a conversation like that has. But it's nice that this movie does. Yeah. I read this book when I was a little kid.
Did you? How similar is it to the film?
Way before the movies came out. I don't fucking remember. I don't think it's similar at all.
The Toothless in the books is like one of those tiny, tiny little dragons.
The little guy.
Yeah. And I think he talks too.
Yeah.
I think he talks like the whole time.
He's like a little yapper. I love the designs of the dragons that they used. Everything looks amazing. The
Burke
town
is cool, yeah.
The dragon designs are also cool and different. The colors of everything are so vibrant and beautiful. And then again, the score just plays into everything so well. It just elevates and lifts every scene. And, in a movie about dragons, there's always going to be flying and it's going to be exhilarating and cool. But like having that John Powell score just lifting everything up, like on Test Drive, when it just really
good.
Talking about the score and the flying, one of the best scenes in the first movie is when him and Toothless are flying with their new invention of the tail wing for the first time through the rocks, and he like loses the directions on how to control the tail mechanism. I think that's one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
So good. It really just all comes together, and he just throws it to the wind, and they just become like one entity, the two of them just understanding each other completely.
And believing in each other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the all-time best movie scores, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the characters too, all the characters are really great. I think the voice cast is also really, really top-notch in this.
They got McLovin.
They got McLovin. Yeah, Christopher Mintz-Plasse is here. All the side characters are great. I mean, huge cast there. But then America Ferrera as Astrid,
Craig Ferguson,
Gerard Butler, Jay Baruchel. They do a really great job as like the core of it.
I love that they all have such unique voices as well, and then it just sort of they just bring that essence to the character. Like, who would Hiccup be if he wasn't speaking like Jay Baruchel?
If he didn't say "bud" every 5 seconds.
Bud.